Oh wow! Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Cheap Heat TV. This is our 69th episode. I am Scott E. Morgan, and I will be doing everything I could possibly do tonight to keep my presence upbeat, like old Xander over there, and try to get this guy to get through this tonight. So to bring on my first co-host, he is the king of all wrestling media, Gene Jackson.
What's up, man?
I mixed it up on you. You wasn't ready
You
for it.
did. I'm used to coming in last. I was like, I got a minute to do something. And I heard Gene. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh crap.
yeah, I
But
got you.
yeah, I see you're trying to get that enthusiasm up. Usually you're as upbeat as your partner, but
It's
you've had
been
a
a day,
long
man.
weekend, I hear. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
struggling. It's all right though.
Definitely that had been the greatest weekend. Yeah.
Would you
But
have
yeah,
ever imagined that we would have gotten through 69 of these shows?
no, no. I mean,
Neither.
there's been times where we're like, man, like what are we doing here? Like, we don't have a game plan. We're just kind of shooting off the seat of our pants kind of thing. Um, no, man, it's been fun though. It's been a ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still enjoying it.
69 episodes and a couple of them quite good.
I'll be honest. I didn't think this guy would make it through it to this far either. But our other co-host, Mister, he's got his own little podcast going on. Is the ZIP, Mister Upbeat Xanders.
All right, let's bring him in. There he
Oh,
is.
hang on, guys. Sorry, hang on. I have a new setup here that
Yeah.
Me and Benny had actually been working on for the show. I'm trying to get a little bit more professional around here, so I figured I'd go ahead and get some stuff. I've been on the social medias promoting the show and doing stuff like that. I've been kind of we're working TikTok, man. Benny's been working his tail off at some TikTok, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Benny has probably been. Can I get applause? Yeah, let's get some applause for Benny. Way to go, dude. Way to go. Benny's really killing it. Sorry, Smokey. Smokey, I'm sorry, dude.
Smokey's
Scott,
like, now that Benny's come along, nobody wants to put some poor Smokey over. They just want to
well,
talk about
Smokey,
Benny.
me and you are at odds, man. We're still at odds because you're on hiatus. There he is. There's that. Oh, hey, on real quick before we go any further. You alluded to Scott having a bad weekend. Can we talk about Scott power bombing his headset before the show started?
That's when I knew. That's when I knew tonight's show was going to be touch and go. When 20
really,
minutes before
really
air,
is. Yeah.
Scott power bombed. Much like. Do we have it? Do we have it?
Oh, hang on.
Back though. Oh no. Scott Morgan shuts it down. Oh, puts the cigarette out on him there. Power bomb!
Look at that. Poor little mini Chris Kronk got broken half.
Smokey is just all cute. You and Smokey have a rapport, Gene, that is just you can't match it in the industry. It's crazy.
That's my boy.
It's weird because I mean, like Benny, I felt the kind of the atmosphere change whenever Benny came into play because Smokey is he's not a diva, but he's definitely
He's not gonna be showing up.
He's king of the house.
Yeah.
So next to Gene, of course, which is king of all.
That's not going to make things better. Oh, goodness gracious! All right, well, let's move on past that.
Sorry, I got choked for a second.
All right, so we got a guest tonight, Scotty. Tell us about that.
Do you want to? Okay, yeah, Scott, go ahead. Let's bring him in. I was hoping for a Mako, but obviously,
yeah. Come on now. You think we
No.
get 2 weeks in a row of Mako? Come on now.
And I do want to address this real quick before we have the guest on. We right now, if my internet goes out or something frantic happens, I apologize. I've got a lot of stuff moving around. We've got a new member of he's a guest booker. He's trying to pick up. He's an intern actually, and so he's roaming around just screaming, "Where's Mako?" for the past 2 or 3 minutes before the show started. And so if he bounces off the walls and he cuts my internet off, it's Mako's problem, guys. I'm sorry.
And who knows? I mean, Mako showed up 3/4 of the way through the show last week. It may happen again. You never know.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't love you, Scott. Always remember that. Not as much as I love you, buddy. Always remember that.
My bank,
All right,
my bank account is a little empty.
All right, so are we ready? Are we ready to bring this guest on, Scott? You got an intro for him, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, I will say that I did not come as prepared this week as I did last week, but there wasn't as many nicknames to siphon through and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this guest doesn't have 47 nicknames like Tyrese
So-
Murphy. I mean,
I was
So
gonna say, is that
there-
Mako or Tyrese?
So there is that. But ladies and gentlemen, our guest tonight is Do or Die. Oh man, I went blank.
Oh no! Oh, Scotty!
Oh man, just bring him on. Damn it.
Oh no!
That's why. Oh, it's that guy. Oh, my bad. My bad.
heel
You need an
Scotty
intro.
coming
I
at
don't
it
need an
again.
intro. Let me
It's cool.
remind you, it's do or die. I'm the career killer, the conqueror of conquerors, but most importantly, the greatest of all time. And maybe you should remember that.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, to be fair, your name kind of like killed my whole. I was on a streak and it killed me, man. Then again, I had notes I got sent from Klein, and I basically deleted them. So sorry.
As soon as he said, he told me about him yesterday, and he said like the moment Klein sent him anything, he just deleted it. It's pretty. It's amazing how quick he is to be as strong. Also, it's ridiculous. K-Swiss, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for asking.
You're looking like a
Multi-time
whole banana.
EPW champion case.
A whole banana. I've got red on, and yellow's my favorite color. It's mellow. Huh? How many time EPW champion? I'm sorry.
3-time.
3-time. Nice.
Yeah.
What is
Effective.
which championship did you feel like meant more to you?
Okay. Well, I'm a former NWA tag team champion, and I think that holds a little bit more weight than other ones. And I know that's a tag belt is not what most guys want, but I think that one was probably the heaviest. But the most satisfying, probably the first time I won the EPW championship, just to kind of prove everybody wrong.
Who did you defeat for the first one?
Dakota Riley.
Okay.
Dakota Riley. Yeah, Dakota was on a hot train for a little bit, and then I came in there and took it from him and ran with it.
Who was your partner for that for the NWA tag title?
A guy named Morgan Williams. We were under the promotion of back then it was NWA Mid-South, and we were doing shows there. And we were part of the NWA for a little bit, and then it got sold out, and then we had to drop the name. But for a little bit we were NWA tag team champs.
Cool. So they mentioned Justin Klein. I mean, I know this is maybe kind of getting to it too quick, but I mean, the elephant's already been walked into the room, so let's talk about it. If things haven't been going swell for you and Justin Klein, to put it mildly, tell us a little bit about what's been going on.
I mean,
with you and Justin Klein.
I mean, I'm hearing that rumor a lot. Like, me and Justin have a problem. But Justin and I, there's no problem. Like, we've agreed that certain things have to happen a different way. I'm doing my thing, he's doing his, and that's really all it is.
Do you think that leads to
the
tension?
problems are over exaggerated then?
I mean, me and Justin and I have had our disagreements, but I mean, I don't know what you guys like. You guys trip over Justin a lot. Like, Justin's a good guy. I don't know. I don't hate him. I like him.
He's kind of rude about my vacation, but
Well, I mean, we brought him on the show, and I mean, to be blunt, I mean, it's kind of an a-hole, man. I mean, we tried to get along with him, and you just can't hardly get along with the guy. The guy's just constantly trying to pick a fight, you know.
I mean, okay. In his defense, like, you guys have been around the business, right? You guys are obviously, to some success. You got a great podcast here. But in order to get there, you have to stand your ground on certain things, right?
no,
Right.
yeah.
So in that case, you have to be a bit of an a-hole for the right reasons, and I think Justin acts that way for the right reasons.
Do you feel like he's clinging on to something to where maybe if you let go of a situation that y'all are both like, because it's costing you, we can all agree on that. If anybody's seen anything, it's costing you, which is reputation and victories. So do you think it's something that you broached with the entire group hey, this is an issue if this continues to happen?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we've had that conversation before. I mean, that's the whole thing with Bryce Dancy. He cost me victories after victory after. You guys saw it was on TV. Embarrassed me in front of everybody. And then we cut off the weak link. So, and the whole thing with the dynasty is more like a brotherhood. It doesn't need to be like a faction in wrestling. It's like a brotherhood. So we decided as people that need to succeed and grow, it's best if they do their thing and I do my thing. I don't think it's cost me reputation. I think that's a really deep, grab for something. I don't think I've lost reputation. That, what matches have I lost that were of any significance?
Well, I mean, the most significant match you've had is your last match.
That kid, Damon Stryker or something like that, I believe his name was.
Oh, Damon Stryker.
But I mean, like, for real, your most relevant match is your last match. That's the most important match you've had. So what do you mean? Like that's exactly what that's. I mean, it's just kind of set in stone. If it's costing you anything, it is costing you reputation, because you see those boys that are making Memphis television, and they're like, are they representing the dynasty?
You look at me in the ring. I don't care if I win or lose. Look at me in those matches. Look at how I perform, how I go in there and I basically do what I want. Win or lose, I'm in there. And even if the guy wins, he still loses, because he's walking out with less than he walked in with. I'm walking out whole. They're not. So
let me ask you this. Well, first of all, let me say, don't worry about Bryce Dancy. Me and Shane Mako took care of him on TV this morning. I hope everybody saw that. He went down. But I guess the thing that people are kind of wondering about, because the rumor is that some of the issue and why y'all have kind of agreed to kind of do your own thing is that it got to be an issue. This is what Waddy Jenkins is telling people, that it got to be an issue that Justin Klein is hanging out with the hot shots, and they're going to all these college parties, and that Klein's trying to somehow relive his youth, and is kind of putting the hot shots ahead of the rest of the dynasty. And that's kind of why you're kind of going like, hey man, I got this. Y'all go do y'all's thing. I'll handle K-Swiss. Is there any truth to that?
See, you look at my personality and you look at theirs. Obvious difference, right? Everybody can agree with that.
Day and night.
Whether I stick out when I'm with them or they stick out when they're with me, we're different. So, but at the end of the day, we're all focused on the same thing. I'm not the partier. I'm not on Friday nights, any night I have off in the week, I'm not out there partying. I'm not out there, doing what they do, whatever they do. I'm in the gym training. I'm in the ring practicing. I'm in the ring doing things, learning things, watching video, watching tape, watching videos of my next opponent. They can be out there partying. They think that's what's going to make them better. Cool. I'm not. I don't do that. But to answer the question, is Justin hanging out with the hot shots, or was Justin doing that before and the hot shots gravitated toward it? I think, if you look at it for what it is, Justin's a very likable guy. If you know what I mean, he's a very likable guy.
I have no idea.
And he can do a lot of things. See, Justin was in the mansions partying like this long before the hot shots. He's been doing this since college, and now the success that he's bringing the hot shots, now they're getting to live the same life that he did, and I guess they're living it up a little bit. Yeah. I do things different.
Okay, so yeah, since you said that, we'll kind of expose some things here, because you kind of bring up a good point, and to back up what you're saying, I mean, yeah, that's what Waddy Jenkins said, but what other people who are in the know tell me is that the hot shots are just a couple of country boys that latched on to Justin Klein, and he talked them into going to college. Probably, had to spend a few bucks to get their transcripts to the point that they could even get in college, and that they owe everything to him, because if not, they would still just be a couple of hicks from Prentice County out there wrestling and not getting a higher education and bettering their lives, such as they are right now.
I don't want this to be an insult the intelligence and the legitimacy of the Klein or the hot shots. I do want to I would like to hear. I would like to talk to. I mean, like, do you feel like you losing, like, does that not affect you how you study? Because now you have to plan for somebody being incompetent. Because that's another thing with Klein is it's like clearly he's being incompetent here. Like if you don't want to like mock his legitimacy or not, like he's being incompetent as a manager.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. Whether I win or lose, ultimately that falls on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, Justin's not in the match fighting for me. I'm doing it all myself. Now, we do have a disagreement where I think his focus is not necessarily where I would like it to be, but that doesn't mean that he's failing or incompetent. That just means he has a different, focus. He needs to focus his attention where it needs to be instead of being on me, and my attention needs to be on me. See, you know what I mean? And as far as the hot shots being like whatever, you can sit here and say what you want about them, but at the end of the day, they're multiple time tag champs. One day going to be EPW heavyweight champs if they keep doing what they're doing. Like, I'm not going to knock these guys. What are we going to do? Is this a whole conversation about the hot shots and Justin, or you know what I mean? Like,
No, absolutely not.
No, let's move on. We've actually got we try to cover the viewer comments. So right here, Scott Hensley says, "I like the bacon wallpaper behind K Swiss." So that's
not a compliment. That's Scott Hemsley's on par with what Scott Hemsley is. I don't know if you've met him, but he does podcasts from kickball tournaments. So
easy. You keep it up, you might make the list.
Yeah, sorry. He's probably never seen you.
Okay, so switching gears. You recently made your debut for a promotion that we've worked for. I've worked for a lot. These guys have worked for once or twice.
Yeah.
OWO. Tell us about that experience. How did that go, and how did you enjoy it?
I mean, it's pretty much the same anywhere I go. I mean, locker room full of guys. There's talented guys there. I mean, they paid me. They paid me well. I mean, that's the big thing at the end of the day. That's what I'm focused on. I don't know about you guys. But, and then I go in there day one, beat their champion. I mean, so obviously sky's the limit there. So I might stick around for a little bit.
Do you think what do you think your limitations are? Do you think like because you have to put a ceiling on your success? You have to. Everybody has to have that mental like ceiling.
You can break through it, but everybody has one.
Like as in like something I lack.
Sure. What's some of your weaknesses?
Let's
do that.
Weaknesses. I don't know. I don't see that I have any.
Besides Justin Klein.
Okay.
No, I mean, I like
self-awareness.
We're not going to throw that. So, Case, we're not going to talk about Justin Klein the entire time. But I will say, with him, you being with him, you don't have as many opportunities to say be on the microphone. How comfortable are you doing microphone work? Is that something you're comfortable with?
He did a hell of a setup.
I mean, are the towels on the Titanic still wet? Like,
me
on the mic, it's natural. I'm talking to you right now. Is this not a promo? I mean, like, what promo is just promoting yourself, and that's what I'm doing.
You have an excellent point there, Scott. Good point,
Dumb
buddy.
question.
Not a dumb question. The only questions that are dumb are the ones not asked. Okay.
He shouldn't ask that one.
Okay, dumb question. What does K-Swiss stand for? What does it mean? How'd you come up with it?
Case, I didn't come up with it. See, I started training in the Memphis Wrestling Academy back in 2009 with Kevin White and Brian Christopher. Those were my two trainers. I would go every week, twice a week, starting out, then it became once a week. And Brian could never remember my name, but I always wore K-Swiss shoes. So he started calling me K-Swiss. And it just kind of stuck and went from there.
Okay. So just to debunk something that I got told the K stands for Klein, which is not true. I'm not going to let him take credit for you.
He said he discovered you. Did he say he discovered you? I can't remember. Or you discovered him? Somebody discovered each other.
Justin said he discovered me.
Yeah, he said he discovered you.
No. What was going on was I was actually supposed to be in a match with Rhino, at the Crossroads Clash in Corinth, Mississippi. And one thing led to another. It ended up being a tag team, no disqualification match. Rhino beat me that night. If you want to keep adding on to the losses, yeah, Rhino beat me that night. And then Trace Hunt that night had won a battle royal for an opportunity to challenge for my championship at any time he wanted, and he cashed it in the same night. I kicked out, but the referee still gave him the win and took my championship. So what I did is I had found Justin's number through a friend of mine. They gave it to me. Said he was really good, and I called him.
Friend of yours. Former. Just tell it like it is.
Former. No, we're all cool.
And not after that Klein conversation. But I'm sorry.
No, actually, Justin did a lot of favors for me, helping me out with the championship. He did a lot, but we agree that it's just time to kind of do our own thing.
Cool.
So circling back to, you talked about being trained by Kevin White and Brian Christopher. What's something that stands out in your mind as one of the things that you learned from Brian that kind of stuck with you that you still use constantly in your career?
With Brian, and I think anybody who knew Brian and was close to him or even just watched him, was that you cannot do what we do at the level he did it if you didn't love it. Brian was insanely talented, more than some people think. And Brian, when we would train, he made it hard on beginners to really test and see if this is what you wanted. Because if this isn't what you want, then there's no point in me wasting my time with you, kind of thing. And I appreciate that. So that's something I carry. I remember every time I walk in any arena, I remember you cannot do this unless you love it, unless you want to be here. And if there's ever a point you don't love it, get out of the business. And I don't think Brian ever stopped loving the business. So
no,
I think that's one of the top things.
I think that was part of the detriment is loving this business. Just loving this business is real fickle.
Something that, it's great that Brian became a part of Too Cool and had the Grandmaster character and all the success that came with it. But I really regret having watched him in Memphis and USWA and seeing his time as a heel in Memphis, that he didn't get an opportunity on a national stage to get a big heel run, because I think that really would have been,
he could work
much more benefit. As great as he was as a babyface, I always thought he was better as a heel. I really wish he'd have gotten that opportunity at some point in his career.
I think if Brian had been given a lot, especially in the beginning, AWA, the Little Red Wagon stuff, that stuff was genius.
Yes.
Way ahead of its time. Think about if he would have done that in WWE or say today, like on the AEW today, if somebody were to do something, if that was new today, that would be the greatest thing. And Brian was ahead of his time like that and always had a game plan of, well, what if we did this like that? And you remember how we did this? Well, let's do it like that. Brian was always a revolutionary. And, like you said, man, if he was given that opportunity in the beginning to really show his character, he would have been bigger than The Rock, I think. He would have been up there.
Definitely a missed opportunity. That the most memorable thing they did with him as a heel in WWE was putting a bottle of Head and Shoulders on the head of Al Snow's head and pinning him. Although that was memorable and it was funny, but there's so much more he could have done. Scott Hensley wants to know.
Uh-oh.
We got to work on the internet.
Uh-oh. Good timing, though.
It must be raining, though.
Yeah. No, it's Scott Hensley's question. I assume you can't do the Too Cool dance. It takes a lot of practice. I can't do anything like that.
I wouldn't even try that,
Do you who's somebody you look like outside of Brian Christopher? Who's somebody you kind of mirror yourself after, whether it be somebody old or obscure? Who do you feel like that kind of is who you are?
Well, see, with wrestling, you kind of absorb everybody you just generally gravitate toward, some people draw more to the characters and the gimmicks, right? And some people draw more to the intensity and the realism. and I was like in the mixture of both. But somebody like now, like it's really old. It's gonna sound really old school, but somebody I watch a lot and try to like really like figure out how he did that so well is Buddy Rogers. I would go back and watch his matches with Luthez and all these guys, and I just watch how he does it, and I would put him as one of my top, top guys that I really study.
What do you think is missing in today's wrestlers, as far as if you could sit down younger wrestlers today and go, hey guys, watch
Give me a
this, work on
microphone with this
this.
one. Oh man, give me a microphone with this question. You know the good ones, Gene. No, the big thing I think is missing from wrestling is wrestling. I think a lot of guys don't pay dues when they come in the business these days. These guys don't respect this business. They a lot of guys, like I tell people, anybody can get in there, buy a pair of tights and walk into the business now. When I like, even for me to even get accepted with Kevin White and Brian, I had to, for months, knocking at their door, talking about, hey, I want to train.
Yeah.
It was that hard. Now guys are just walking in and wrestling for a year, and they're walking around with world titles and they're beating their chests and thinking that they're great, and they're not.
They're being begged to be trained. They're being begged. People are begging them.
Yeah.
It's now turned into like a please, I'll do anything. Just I don't care.
That's the downfall of a lot of shows is what little bit of the crowd they have, they lose because they put them all in the ring. Like they end up taking 80% of their crowd and making them wrestlers, and then now there's somebody to watch it because they're all in the ring now. It's
but see, that's not a problem, and I don't blame the guys who can walk into the business and do that. You know what I mean? Kudos to them. They found an easy way in. I'm not mad at that. I'm mad at the promoter who's willing to take them in at the expense of not having to pay them.
Yeah,
that's what I'm mad.
That's where it all started going south, and I saw that as I was, I had been in just a few years, and had promoters sending me and Neil out there to beat up guys who they put in the ring and were having a horrible match, and the promoter says, hey, go out there and make them never want to come back. And we did, but in retrospect, because we were young and dumb, I guess, but in retrospect, it's like, dude, you put them in there. And it's like the reason he put them in there was because they worked for free. They set up his ring. They postered the town. They did all the grunt work that nobody wanted to do, and he didn't have to pay them. And they wanted to be put in the ring, and then so he could make us the bad guy by having us go out there and beat him up. And I'm sure he baby-faced to them and was like, "Oh man, I don't know what their problem is. Gene's just an asshole. I don't know why they did that, and because they were back there setting the ring up the next time, but they didn't want to get in the ring again." So I guess mission accomplished.
Yeah.
We had that. We had that in ours also. That was us in training early, as we just got beat up, and Mickey hoped we never came back.
Well, I think to a point that's good though. That's like to go in there and really understand what the business is. It's not. A lot of people have this weird thing about the business, like we're just jumping around on a trampoline, like doing cool moves to each other, and that's not what it is. We're hurting each other, and I think it hurts. That's what we want people to understand, that this hurts.
I do think a majority of it now is, unfortunately, people know it hurts. Now they just don't see a purpose. Like there's a lot of outsiders who are like, that's just dumb. Why would he even try to tell that story? And it's because people have done such a bad job with it. It's like there's so much bad.
Another thing I see a lot of too that I think is compounding a lot of problems is when you go to shows and you see guys that have only been in the business a brief time that are still figuring it out, and they're in the ring training guys. So you got people learning from people who still don't really know what they're doing yet, and then they're passing that on. It's like there's not a lot of people who are fully trained by people who know the business all the way around. They're picking up a little bit here and there, and I don't know. It's like I don't think there's a lot of places out there for people to get fully trained and put in the ring when they're ready, more so than just like, hey, we got some spots on the show coming up next weekend. They know enough, and they'll do it for free. Put them in there.
Yeah, well, see, and the EPW's got a training academy now. So, like, we got there's access in the area. Memphis is training, but EPW is training, so local people can, like, if you want to be in the business, there's a place where you can learn it and learn to appreciate it. And I think go back to the question, you know, appreciation for the business. That's the thing that's dying away too, is just respect for the business.
Yeah. And but I think those two things bounce off each other. Is there's a lack of respect for the business because the business is becoming less respectable because of who some of the people are that's being led into it.
And some of the stuff that's allowed to go on.
You kind of have to fix one problem. You have to plug this hole in the boat before, you know, you can take care of this other problem, because one feeds off the other. But, you know, that's a whole nother podcast. We're not going to bog down this one.
Yeah, I'd have to set up a
fix
tent.
the problems of the wrestling world, because God knows that can't happen. But we're just about out of time for the interview. Is there anything?
I was going to say, I wanted to have Scott ask one, because I know Scott's always got at least one really rude question. Scott, you got a rude question for him before he plugs all this?
Why do you think about it be a rude question?
I'm sorry, just ask.
No, I mean, there was a couple things that he was talking on that I would just like to briefly go through. Like he said, he was talking about Brian Christopher, and I think on what he was trying to say is sometimes it's the guys who don't get a lot of TV time that are actually some of the best performers. They're just, you know, you don't get to see a lot of them, so you really don't understand what they're capable of long term. We were talking about the training and the new guys, of course, how easy it is to get into these days, and like they don't pay the dues, they don't set up the ring, they don't take the ring down, they don't do any of that kind of stuff anymore. Like the one thing that you were talking about earlier, just to go around, man, I was just being funny earlier. I really remembered your name. I just, whenever Klein texted me something about you, I didn't want to put Klein over for it, so. But we do. I have watched your matches, dude. We keep up. We watch the YouTube. We watch the live. We do watch your stuff, and I think you have a lot of potential. But one thing you said earlier that you were talking about, y'all cut the weak link out of Bryce Dancy. Is, man, I'm coming from a guy who's been with a manager multiple times.
Go to commercial. Somebody go to commercial.
On both sides.
Somebody go to commercial.
I'm kind of worried about the whole you hanging on to Klein as a manager, because what if you're the next thing that gets cut, man? Like,
well, okay, instead of because he's not going to be the weak link. K-Swiss.
Well, I agree, but that's Klein's point of view of who the weak link is.
Okay, well, we're not going to try to get into that horrible mind of Justin Klein. K-Swiss, dude. Put yourself over, man. You got any like storefronts, anything like that, man?
I mean, here's what I want to say to anybody watching your show. Think what you want about me. When you come out and you watch me, you're going to watch the best wrestling you possibly can. No matter who I'm in the ring with, it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be fun. And you're witnessing the literal greatest of all time. You're watching me. And the product at EPW is all around great. We got a lot of cool guys. Come out, watch the show. CheapHeatTV, I appreciate you guys. You guys got a great platform. You got great minds. No, I appreciate you guys. Just my message really is just, let's bring respect back into the business. You know, and that's my whole thing with my whole career is respect. I want the crowd to respect me. I want people to respect me, but also I respect those who deserve being respected. And so far, I think you guys have done a great job with that, so you've earned my respect.
Appreciate it, man. Well,
yeah, man.
Do or die respect. That's all.
All right, so on the backside, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming out with K-Swiss. On the backside, we'll talk a little bit about pro wrestling, WWE with Sami Zayn, other stuff like that. We'll talk to you in a bit. See you.
Are you looking to have a good time? Well, head on down to Happy Hour Comedy Club and Restaurant in Anniston, Alabama. Shoot you some pool, play you some darts, or head on over to the bar, get you a cold beer or one of them fancy cocktail drinks. They got all that. You hungry? Get you one of the best pizzas in Anniston or anything else off the menu. They got burgers, tacos, chicken wings, anything you want. Every Thursday night, they got open mic comedy and karaoke, and live comedy every Friday and Saturday night with some of the top comedians from across the United States. Go to happyhourcomedyclub.com for more information and tell them Whitey Jenkins sent you.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
You like barbecue? Well, of course you do, unless you're some kind of weirdo or wasn't raised right. So if you want to get some of the best barbecue around, check out P3 Barbecue. Our buddy David Estes does it up right, and he'll be glad to cater to your next event or just send you some of his award-winning sauce right there to your own doorstep. Go over and check them out on the Facebooks at facebook.com/P3Barbecue or give old David a call at 901-679-3452 and tell him Whitey Jenkins sent you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school, but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Dangerous Dan Colley, the Professor Jimmy Street, and the Plastic Sheik Jared are the undisputed six-man tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This trio does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Get ready to get inspired. It's Xander's Inspirational Podcast, the brand new podcast with Upbeat Xanders, as he has one-on-one podcast sessions that both inspire and inform. Check it out as Xanders has a one-on-one interview with some of your favorite people in and out of the professional wrestling business. Give it a listen on CheapHeatTVLive.com. It's the Old School Dives Pro Wrestling Podcast with Shane Knowles and Gene Jackson. Every episode, they will take a deep dive into old school professional wrestling. Pro wrestlers, events, all sorts of great topics will be covered every 2 weeks right here on Old School Dives. You can find it at CheapHeatTVLive.com and at YouTube.com/CheapHeatTV. It's Old School Dives with Shane Knowles and Gene Jackson.
Sorry. Hey, guys, we're back. A little behind on the scheduling there. We're always real awkward coming out of the commercial. That's the way everybody likes it. So we're going to be here on the backside. I figured we'd do some topical wrestling. Does Smokey want to do graphics? I mean, like, gee, this is kind of where it gets real fun in the evening. I guess normally we bring Mako on, but he's too free.
Well, again, I mean, you're not going to get him 2 weeks in a row. What are you thinking? I mean,
it would have been 3, wouldn't it? That would have been the third.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to sell him short. Yeah, that'd be 3 straight weeks he would have appeared on the podcast. So
he got a paycheck. I think he's just coming back in long enough to see that he still needs to be getting a paycheck and just enough to be able to send it in to expenses. It's out of control, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not having fun.
So just not to get back on these topics, but just real quick, just to acknowledge them. Jay Griffin says, I'm of the strong opinion that Klein's incompetence is no act. So there's that.
I'm in agreement.
And then Jay Griffin also says, Big Daddy Dink was a better manager than
also,
Klein.
Also agree with that statement. Sorry, I hope
just putting a bow on the K-Swiss interview and the Klein comments. So.
Yeah, we on the backside of that, I'm glad we had a good conversation with old K-Swiss.
Yes, we appreciate K-Swiss coming on and fun interview.
Maybe we'll have him back. He'll probably be on here in the next couple of months more than Mako will be. So.
Yeah, I mean, if he shows up twice in 3 months, he's on par with Mako at least. He might not beat him, but he's on par.
Well, before
Scotty's drinking, I guess.
So before we go any further, I know this is we don't have a graphic made for this or anything like that, but I'll make the announcement real quick. That way we're not just kind of killing time while Smokey gets the graphics and stuff like that loaded up. I will announce that on Thanksgiving, we're going to do a podcast or the Sunday of Thanksgiving with Bob Evans. We're going to have a Bob Evans Thanksgiving interview. So we're going to get to have him probably in his vehicle again, but it'll still be it'll be as good a quality as time.
Back from somewhere.
Yeah. And he's probably
that'll be fun. We haven't checked in with Bob in a while. And so
he was supposed to be on a year. A lot has
Yeah,
happened since
and we
that.
didn't. Well, he's been busy. We've been busy, but there was a lot of knowledge dropped in the episode, and I know for a fact we picked up quite a few new listeners the week Bob was on, and then in turn, some of our listeners who weren't aware of Bob uh, became aware of his website and joined up. So mutually beneficial, which is what we like here.
Yep. And which we plan on. Like I said, he's going to be on week of Thanksgiving. I don't know exactly what date that is. I guess I could probably have a calendar out, but that'll be. Oh man, the 27th.
AJ Nichols, what's up, buddy? Thanks for checking in, man. Glad you're listening.
Welcome to the show. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow if you don't like, and subscribe on our YouTube thing. That way Gene can clip this up randomly during the week. Him or Smokey can click this up and put this on YouTube.
Yeah, Smokey does the hard work. We just show up and talk.
Yeah, really kind of. I'm sure he's irritated by this because you could tell we're just not prepared for it. He sent us notes and stuff. Oh,
is that what we were looking for there?
There it is.
Topical wrestling subjects. We don't have any music behind that one, but
Unfortunately, we can't overuse the game show stuff. Let me just ask you this. So I was kind of looking through poorly doing my research. Do you feel Moxley's being overused at this point, like as a champion? Because good grief, I see he's wrestling so much. Do they not have a roster?
I'm sorry, I froze for a second.
They have a huge roster.
Did you say?
It seems like Moxley's wrestling like he has to be in ring entertaining. He can't just come out and do like a promo or something. They have to use that spot to make sure he's taking all those. Man, he seems to be wrestling more and more every year.
Well,
it's just
they took away his indie dates. I guess he's having to get all his wrestling in on Wednesday nights now.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do you think that
yes,
because that was like a big thing?
He signed a new deal, and part of that new deal was he's no longer taking indie dates. That's why he dropped the GCW belt to Nick Gage abruptly and all that, because they put a stop to that, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy's out doing death matches, and it's a miracle that the AEW World Champion didn't go out and suffer some brutal injury that was going to put him out for 6-7 months on some indie show in front of
But that's what he wanted to do. That was his big draw from getting away from WWE.
There comes a time though when you got to make a choice. Do you want to make big money and be on national television, or do you want to go do shit hook indie shows in front of small crowds for small amounts of money? I mean, from Tony Khan's perspective, I understand that's what Moxley wants to do, but from Tony Khan's perspective, you can't be rolling the dice when you're putting the belt on him. I mean, if he's just another cog in the machine, then fine. But if you're putting the belt on him, you're making him your champion and somewhat the face of your company. You can't. Number one, you can't have the risk of injuries is a big part. But number two, why am I going to go spend big money on AEW tickets and AEW pay-per-views when I can watch him at the local
watering hole,
ag hall or whatever, where he's going to be wrestling some guy in a freaking barbed wire fire pit match or some dumb shit.
Well, I'm straw betting there, but yes, I do agree. Do you think Tony Khan set him down and was like, hey, look, man, we actually need you right now because I still can't bring back the guys who said they were going to carry our company.
we can't afford to have any more tournaments for the title.
Yeah, we can't.
How many interim champions can we have this year, buddy? I mean,
I'm running out of Pac dates. I can't bring Pac in to go to the finals again to lose to Orange Cassidy or something. I mean, is Wardlow the answer there? Because I'm assuming there's got to be a long-term solution to him wrestling.
I mean, Wardlow's going to be a star for him in time, but he's not a draw. I mean, nobody's buying a pay-per-view to see Wardlow. It's Goldberg with hair at this point. I mean, the way they're booking him, and that's fine. It's got him over, but I don't know what they're doing with MJF. I mean, he basically turned babyface the other night, it seems. I'm sure it's a big swerve, but it's still kind of unnerving when he was the top real heel they had, and now the other night he went out and more or less saved Moxley and, got beat down by Stokely and company. He had an entertaining promo with Renee where he did that impression of Moxley. He did the shoulder thing, and he's like, MJF, next week I'm going to make you bleed. I'm going to crush your bones, and I'm going to gargle your piss. And that sounds like some dumb shit Moxley would say. So it was hilarious to me. But it's weird over there. I mean, they're making it sound like Omega and the Bucks are fixing to come back, and most everyone is pretty positive that Punk will get balled out, which is unfortunate. But at this point, I don't see no other way around it, because Jericho's putting it out into the news that he allegedly called Punk a locker room cancer to his face and all this kind of shit. And it's like, so much stuff has been said. Like, how can he really come back? They claim half the locker room don't want to work with him, although
the other half
I keep
does.
some quotes from all these young guys, Ricky Starks and Hobbs, and quite a few of them in interviews are saying Punk helped them more than
FTR.
Sure. Oh God, I can only imagine.
FTR was one of the bigger names that put him out there.
FTR love him. And meanwhile, Jericho is too busy coming up with his next week's gimmick to be helping any of these guys. He's got to change. He's got to change his nickname again. He's had the same one for 3 weeks now.
We got to have those nicknames. Do you think that do you think this buyout's going? Because I've read various reports, and the only thing that I've kind of read on that is if that buyout happens, he won't be able to wrestle anywhere else. I mean, a buyout would be a buyout.
Supposedly that's the holdup. It's not that he doesn't want to get balled out and he doesn't want to leave, but they're wanting to put, I think he had 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And so I think they're wanting the buyout to mean that he'll get paid the majority of the money he was supposed to make, but he also will not. It'll be almost like he's still under contract, because he won't be able to wrestle during that time frame. And I guess from Punk's perspective, and I would agree, is that's not buying me out. That's sitting me out. If I'm getting paid and you're buying out the contract, but I still have to, it's like I'm under contract and I can't wrestle, then you're really not buying me out. I'm just sitting out the contract. So I think that's where everything's hung up right now. And apparently Triple H is putting it out there that he's not completely shut off to the idea of Punk coming to WWE. Now, is that true? Is Punk even willing to go there? Or is Triple H just smart enough and enough of a shit stir to know, if I put this out there, it's going to totally screw up the buyout negotiations. It's going to mess with Tony Khan's head, because apparently Tony Khan's biggest fear in the world, beyond stuff that goes on his show, is anybody ever going back to WWE. That's been his big thing. Is even these guys
after all that crap everybody said about WWE, people wanting to leave WWE. No, they should get to leave whenever they want to. They don't. Who cares about a contract? Yeah, that's
now. He's like, well, Aleister Black can go home, but he can't go. He can't go to WWE.
There's a lot of double standards.
Yeah, because the whole bit was everybody wants to come there. Everybody wants out. WWE's a sinking ship, and then Cody went there, and it changed everybody's perspective on that completely. And then you got to think the guys who were just stuck in limbo over there in AEW. I mean, everybody thought this was going to be the promised land. You got really, really talented people that only pop up on Rampage and Dark, or not all, or once every 3 months. And then they see what they've done with Cody and what they're doing with Gargano, and guys that, left and either came to AEW or never went to AEW. They just hung out in limbo like Bray Wyatt. And now they're back, and they're getting used as a focal point of the show, while a lot of these, you can't sign 100 people.
They expect to use them all.
Yeah, definitely. No, you could never. It's one of those things.
You can knock Tony Khan, but it's literally impossible to do.
Yeah. And then, he's booked himself into his own hole, because he's played with too much money that he has, but not necessarily needed to create something to where even to allude earlier back in the interview, he said what's missing is just wrestling. You put good enough gimmicks with good enough workers, and you set up a system to where it just keeps growing and getting better, and you can interchange parts and move. That was my thing with AEW, was all these acquisitions. They should be moving pieces way better. And I heard he's going to be doing ROH television later on down the line, and we'll talk about that another time. But I do want to get I hope that materializes better story wise.
I agree with K Swiss's comment about more wrestling, but something I think WWE does much better than AEW, and much better than most companies always have, is and a shining example of it that everybody knows by now that I love, and apparently a lot of other people do too, based on the feedback I've seen, is you've got guys like the Bloodline and Sami Zayn who are doing incredibly entertaining stuff on TV. Just ridiculously fun, entertaining stuff, but they can also back it up in the ring. And in the past, a lot of times, and especially in places like AEW and WCW, you had, and ECW even back in the day, you had people who were really entertaining on the mic, but couldn't really back it up in the ring. And then sometimes you had people that were really entertaining in the ring who couldn't back it up on the mic. But like right now, you've got a handful of guys, the Bloodline and Sammy and Kevin Owens and different ones who can deliver both. I mean, and that's a throwback to the glory days. Everybody talks about the Attitude Era. Austin and The Rock and all these guys who were very entertaining on the mic, but they also delivered in the ring. I mean, they weren't having 5-star matches as far as bangers, as far as all the stupid moves and stuff, but their storylines that played out on the mic on Mondays, when you bought the pay-per-view, when Mankind finally got across the ring from The Rock, or Austin finally got across,
it was going to be a good fight. It was going to be a good fight. Yeah,
he was going to back up all that stuff he had talked for the last 4 weeks. And that's not always the case with some of the other people.
Well, you see it kind of like in the past whenever that Attitude Era wasn't there and it was major, like people were kind of critical of it. Like even Dolph, they wouldn't let him, like he would cut something amazing promo and then the next week he'd be losing to, Primo on a blah, blah, blah useless show and they'd never go anything with it. Like, They didn't let talented wrestlers continue to speak because they wanted to bring in people who were not talented so they could just speak and hide the fact they were kind of crap at wrestling. They finally, I don't know if it's retired. I still blame the retirement of Vince. I believe that Vince got so deep because he saw Tony Khan as a bigger threat than what Triple H does. Triple H doesn't care. Like he's got his setup for life.
Vince, I think Vince McMahon just had all these things in his head that he had in there for years that he just lived by and operated under, that he wouldn't let go of no matter what. That most of it was just kind of stupid stuff. And Triple H seems more willing to just go where if something's working, okay, when we're going to go with that. And just simple stuff like giving people back their first names that Vince had took away. Like, seems simple, but it just makes more sense for that to be Matt Riddle than just Riddle. Like, some of the names, okay, I get it. Take the first name. I mean, fine. Cesaro, that was fine. Better than Antonio Cesaro. But Riddle instead of Matt Riddle just sounded dumb.
Rusev was a better one.
Ciampa instead of Tommaso Ciampa was just kind of dumb. Like, there was just a lot of that kind of silly stuff. And just people that, no matter what kind of reactions they got, they weren't getting pushed just because they weren't big as Vince McMahon likes them to be, or whatever the case may be. But I dare anybody to say that WWE hasn't been 100 times better in the short time since Vince left and that Triple H took.
Absolutely.
If you say otherwise, you're completely full of shit. You can't give examples of how it's gotten worse, and you can't really give examples of what was better when Vince was still in charge. I don't think it can be done.
Yeah. Well, real shout out real quick to our friends of the show, Sal and Marv, who I don't know if we did it last week, but they got demolished.
We didn't. Or I don't know. Y'all may have after I left. I don't know. But yes, they
congratulations. I hope y'all won.
They were featured on. I don't think we could have last week because it happened on
Monday. It happened on Monday. I don't know if they won or not. I didn't get to see that part of the show, but I assume they won. It was 4 against 1.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that picture where Osmosis had his foot on top of all 4 of them. I'm sure they all kicked out, took him down, and then
I didn't see that one. Oh, I didn't see that one.
Look on Marv's page; it's there.
Okay, hang on. I'll look and see y'all.
It is there.
How we doing this tonight? Where are we going from here? We did that was great topical wrestling.
It
That was
is.
a good. That was nice. We got
I've
a lot
actually
of
watched a little
smoky.
bit of stuff, so I had a couple of opinions for a change.
Scott, you got any opinions? You
Yeah,
you made some comments.
yeah, I watched, I watched Friday Night SmackDown. I will say probably the best thing about Friday Night SmackDown was the fact, and it may not have been, booked the way it was, or it may have, I don't know, but the fact that the Bloodline broke character on TV, I think that gave it more publicity than anything else. The fact that they weren't supposed to be laughing, but they were laughing, and it could have very well been put to happen that way. But what I've seen from all over social media is the fact that they weren't supposed to be laughing was the best part about the entire show.
It makes it more fun, and it makes people feel a part of something. Like, hey, we're all experiencing something that wasn't intended to be that way, but here we are.
Yeah. Because everybody at home, like me and myself included, when they started talking about Uzi and the crowd started chanting it, it's funny. So to think that their guys in the ring can sit there with straight faces is bull crap. As well as I don't know if y'all saw the backstage segment as well with when they were talking about going to eat, about how Sammy was like, "Yeah, we're hungry, we're going to go to dinner," and everybody's just like relaxing. He goes, "Yeah, we're going to go to Waffle House."
Ooh.
And the Usos set up like, "Oh yeah, we're going to Waffle." He goes, "Yeah, boys, you get whatever you want. It's all me." And it was like they played off of it so well that
no, that's probably a shoot, man.
Yeah, he legit goes. He goes, "Just a fun fact for everybody is the Usos, they love the Waffle House."
All right, so I'm a big Waffle House guy.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? Okay, so mine's peanut butter pancakes with peanut butter and chocolate chips in them. Are we doing this?
I'm a steak and eggs guy.
Steak and eggs, Gene? Do you eat that stuff?
I'll eat any of that, but I don't. I don't eat the Waffle House a lot unless it's like 2 a.m. and there's no other choice. Just because.
Which is what they have.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that seems like a pretty decent segue for our social media plugs.
Everybody not a health choice, that's for sure.
Everybody go check us out on social media at Cheap Heat TV Live. Most of our stuff's at Cheap Heat TV Live. Our YouTube's at Cheap Heat TV. We don't do a lot on that. What's our TikTok, Gene?
CheapHeatTV.
At CheapHeatTV on TikTok, ladies and gentlemen. And Scott, what's your TikTok? That way everybody should be.
Yeah, in the past.
Scott, hang on. Hang on, wait. I'm sorry.
I see Scott's drinking tonight. You might want to check his TikTok. Here may be some.
Scott, so give us one more time. What's your TikTok?